After protecting the throne for her bloodline, Kösem Sultan was ended by her bloodline, and a young mother would seize power in her place. Turhan Sultan was born around 1627, far from the grandeur of the Ottoman court. A young girl of Ukrainian origin, she entered the imperial harem as a slave, unaware that her destiny will one day intertwine with the most powerful woman in the empire, Kösem Sultan. She became the Haseki Sultan, the chief consort of Sultan Ibrahim I and mother to Mehmed IV. At first, Turhan was just another young woman in a spiraling palace filled with intrigue, whispers, and danger. But every glance, every word, and every alliance she formed would prepare her for the greatest role she would ever play, surviving the shadow of Kösem Sultan and claiming power for her son. Though young and inexperienced, Turhan quickly realized that surviving the Ottoman court meant navigating a web of whispers, loyalties, and dangers. Kösem Sultan, seasoned and cunning, had already spent decades controlling the empire from behind the throne, ruling through her sons and protecting her bloodline at all costs. Turhan's son, Mehmed IV, was only 6 years old when his father, Sultan Ibrahim I, was deposed. Kösem immediately assumed the role of regent, guarding the empire through this delicate period. But Turhan understood that if she wanted to protect her son and secure his reign, she could not simply stand aside. Every decision Kösem made, every council she attended, and every move to consolidate power carried a cost, even for family. The palace was a place where loyalty and bloodline could be weapons, and the stakes were nothing less than life and death. In the shadows of the empire, a subtle but dangerous rivalry took shape, a battle of survival, influence, and the enormous cost of power. By 1651, Kösem Sultan had spent decades protecting her son's claim to the Ottoman throne, shaping the empire through careful strategy, alliances, and decisive actions. But her experience and influence now made her a threat to her daughter-in-law, Turhan Sultan, who was determined to protect her own son, Mehmed IV, and secure her place in the palace hierarchy. In the dead of the night, Turhan Sultan's faction carried out the plan. Kösem Sultan was assassinated inside the palace, ending the life of a woman who had ruled from the shadows for decades. Her death was swift but symbolic. The empire's rules allowed no room for even the most skilled and cunning woman to remain untouchable. The assassination was more than personal. It was the inevitable result of a system that demanded total control, where power could only reside with one woman at a time. Turhan Sultan rose from this act, assuming the position of Valide Sultan, And from that moment, she became the most powerful woman in the Ottoman Empire. Turhan Sultan did not rise to power by accident. She rose because she understood the lesson. Kösem Sultan taught the palace, power is never shared, it is taken. After Kösem's assassination in 1651, Turhan became Valide Sultan to her young son, Mehmed IV, and with that title came absolute authority. But unlike Kösem, Turhan ruled with a different fear, the fear of becoming the next target. She moved quickly. Turhan removed Kösem's remaining allies from court, quickly breaking all networks that had survived multiple reigns. Where Kösem relied on influence and long-term control, Turhan relied on finality. There would be no rival mothers, no competing regents, no divided loyalties. Yet, Turhan's reign was not chaos. Understanding the limits of palace politics, she made a calculated decision that changed Ottoman history. She handed real governing power to strong grand viziers, most notably Köprülü Mehmed Pasha, stabilizing an empire weakened by internal struggle. This was her genius. Instead of ruling everything herself, Turhan ruled who ruled. Under her watch, military discipline returned. Rebellions were crushed, and the empire regained order. While Kösem shaped the throne from within the harem, Turhan shaped the state itself. But history will rather remember her with discomfort, because the question lingered: was Turhan a savior of the empire, or the woman who killed its most powerful queen to secure her own son's future? In the Ottoman court, morality did not matter, only survival did. Kösem Sultan spent her life protecting the Ottoman throne for her bloodline. She raised sultans. She removed sultans. She held an empire together while men collapsed under its weight. But power demanded a price, and it was always paid in blood. Her son Murad IV ruled with iron cruelty, shaped by a childhood of fear and absolute authority. Another son, Ibrahim I, broken by years of isolation and paranoia, was placed on the throne only to be removed when his instability threatened the empire. By the time Kösem looked around the palace, it was filled of her descendants, and yet she stood alone. Turhan Sultan watched all of this. She learned from Kösem's victories and from her mistakes. Turhan understood one brutal truth: the woman who protected the throne too long became a threat herself. So when Kösem attempted to secure power once more, even if it meant replacing one grandson with another, Turhan struck first. The assassination was quiet, no public trial, no honor, just the end of the most powerful woman the Ottoman Empire had ever known. And in that moment, power changed hands, but the cost remained the same. Turhan saved her son's throne. She stabilized the empire. She ruled wisely. But she did so by ending the woman who taught her how power works. In the Ottoman court, love was dangerous, legacy was lethal, and survival often meant destroying the very family you fought to protect. Kösem Sultan did not lose power because she was weak. She lost it because she stayed powerful for too long. She survived slavery. She ruled as regent. She placed sultans on the throne and removed them when the empire demanded it. But in the Ottoman court, survival had an expiration date. By protecting the throne for her bloodline, Kösem became the one obstacle her bloodline had to remove. And Turhan Sultan, once her student, became her executioner. This was not betrayal born of hatred, it was inheritance. The empire did not punish Kösem for her ambition, it learned from it. And when the time came, it used her own methods against her. The Ottoman Empire continued. Another sultan ruled. Another woman held power behind the curtain. But Kösem left behind a warning written in silence and blood. Power will use you until it no longer needs you. And in the end, even the woman who mastered power could not escape its price.